Hello, my name's Michael Chesterman and I'm a student at MMU doing a Masters in Computing. I want to introduce the tool that I want to create called Duct Tape University, which is a tool to help the discovery and the publication of open educational resources. Now, I wanted to just be enthusiastic about the project, introduce a little bit of my background, and then go into a bit more of the details of the deliverables of the project and some ideas of how to implement them. So the whole area of open educational resources is something that's really starting to bear fruit at the moment, not just in terms of the production of high quality resources that can be reused, but also getting to grips with the remixing and portability issues that are out there. A lot more are being published in open formats that allow you to reuse them easily. The days of just publishing a PDF are, I think, disappearing. That's happening more and more rarely. So that really opens the door to a couple of things. One is, how do we make these resources easily findable so that they can be remixed by communities, and also how can we best publish them and publish them in a way that allows a community of use to really benefit from these open educational resources. One of the issues that's come up in this book, by John Shank, is the issue of browsability of the repositories that are there. A lot of them contain excellent resources, but because they're so large and there's no overarching taxonomy of categorization, a lot of them only have one level of subject categorization, which means it's very difficult to browse for the kind of resources that you want. Part of this is just a problem of size, but if we try and create smaller scale repositories, how do we stop it from being too fragmented, and how do we do it with technology that doesn't cost too much to produce? So I've got a couple of answers for that. One is to use metadata, and I propose to use the LRMI metadata based on schema.org, just because it needs testing out in the wild a bit more, and this kind of small scale project I think could be really useful for testing it, and also just because it can be used by the Google custom search engines, and I really want to try that aspect of it out. And the other approach is using existing web frameworks, because a lot of the work is already done in terms of a community website. So the work of the user management, the logins, the security is taken care of. So I'm thinking specifically of Drupal, WordPress, and maybe a Django approach as well. And really that just needs to be evaluated. What's going to be the best approach? So moving towards the kind of deliverables and implementation, I think it's good to keep in mind a specific community so that it can be really tested in place. And I propose to use a community called the Do It Artists Community, which is a project of Community Arts Northwest, and it's a training program that trains artists, predominantly refugee artists, but also open to other artists, especially if they're from low income or unemployed. Teach them how to get their message across and get their work across using social media. So it's got an element on design tools, simple web production tools, and there's an element of taking it further into coding if that's appropriate, and if people have got the skills to do that. So the goal is to pull together open educational resources that will be useful to that community, and to work out a educational framework and a taxonomy that will also be useful to help people to find this. The idea is to create that tool, to create a couple of modules, either for Drupal or for WordPress or for Django, to make that a replicable tool, to create great documentation on how to use the tool, but also for developers on how to replicate it. And I think that's about it, really. And then to see where that leads. So that's a summary of the project. I think now is a great time for open educational resources. Although there's less funding around for them, I think it's time for it to kind of get real, and for teachers and communities to really start using what's out there. So I'm excited to potentially be a part of that process. Thank you.